This week, I am going to be answering one of the most common questions that engaged couples ask me, which is, what's the average price for a wedding photographer? And it's a great question, but booking the right photographer isn't just about price. It's about finding a person and package that is right for you and your budget, sure, but also your personalities and values. And it could mean the difference between capturing every unforgettable moment at a price that still fits your budget and having a wonderful time doing that, or missing out on the memories that matter most and trying to deal with someone who is not on the same page as you all day long. So how do you know what's a fair price and what you're really paying for? In this episode, we're diving into the numbers, the trends, and the real factors that are shaping wedding photography costs now and into the future in Australia and the rest of the world too. You'll get the latest averages straight from recent industry surveys, so you know exactly what to expect when you start your search. Plus, I'll break down how inflation, technology, experience, location, and even the day of the week can all impact what you pay and what you get. And to make sure you get the best value, I'll be sharing 5 practical tips to help you budget wisely and secure the perfect photographer for your big day. So whether you're just starting out or you're in the thick of vendor decisions, this episode will help you make confident, informed choices and get the most out of your wedding photography investment. Let's get stuck into it. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. Because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. So we're going to begin with understanding those key factors that are driving wedding photography prices. Because I hear the complaints, I do. They cost a fortune. Photographers charge an arm and a leg. Seriously. As with the cost of everything else that is going up lately, so food is a big one, power prices is another, weddings are also feeling the price pressures of this economy. And there are several key factors behind these increases in wedding photography prices in 2025, and they will continue to impact prices well beyond this year as well. So before I share the average prices of different countries around the world, I think it's really important, firstly, to understand what impacts the cost of a wedding photographer's services and products. So first up, we've got that inflation and the rising costs, because general inflation and increased living expenses have pushed up the cost of doing business for everyone. Absolutely everyone, including wedding photographers and all other wedding vendors for that matter, which contributes to the higher prices overall. Makes sense, right? Then on top of that, for wedding photographers in particular, their equipment and tech. They're a bit obsessed, God love them, but the cost of high-end cameras, so the bodies of the cameras, the lenses, the lighting gear, the SD cards, the data storage that they choose to use, all the backup devices, the advanced editing software, those prices continue to rise. And additionally, the use of new technologies like drones and specialised editing tools also adds to initial equipment outlay for sure, but then service costs and subscription costs, which are ongoing. You will also pay for a wedding photographer's experience and reputation, because of course a more experienced and sought after photographer is going to ask for more money. They're going to command higher rates due to their expertise. Sometimes they've got a big presence on social media, they've got great reviews, word of mouth recommendations, and 9 times out of 10, if they've gotten to that point in their career, they also show a unique artistic style, which is hard to replicate, right? That's why you want them. And that's why they are able to charge what they do. They make the amazing look easy. And that's not a course that you do across a weekend. That's years and years of developing your style and your approach, the way you compose your photos and how you edit them as well. Then you've got where they live, where you live and where your wedding is, the geographical location. Because, as you're about to learn, prices vary a lot by region and city and country. So with higher costs, commonly in major metropolitan areas and for destination weddings where travel and accommodation might be required, that makes complete sense. Then you've got the demand and the market trends, so increased demand for high quality, artistic, personalised wedding photography. It might be the difference between booking an agency that has a few photographers on their books and you don't get to choose who you have actually at your wedding, or going for a boutique business. And you've got the influence of social media, what they share on social media, whether or not they have any content creation packages, things like that. There are increased expectations from the engaged couples, and that increases the prices as well. Then you've got your editing and your post-production. So the more time that's spent on editing, retouching, using AI, paying for that AI, delivering digital galleries, it also contributes to higher costs. And there is also seasonal pricing. So as you know, weddings during peak seasons or on weekends often cost more than off-peak or weekday bookings. Some wedding photographers will be able to apply some sort of discount if they're not in demand. Not all of them, but some of them. And then, of course, what you get, because different packages, think elopements and micro weddings, to wedding celebrations that last several days and sometimes include travel to more than one country as well, means that you're going to pay more. If you want longer coverage, the amount of hours the photographer is present at your event, then you're going to pay for that. If you want a second shooter, if you want an engagement session, content creation, fine art, prints, albums, other add-ons, they all increase that final price that you're going to pay for your wedding photographer. Makes sense though. These factors all combine to shape the pricing landscape for wedding photography. But also, keeping all of that in mind, wedding photographers operate in what's known as a free and God knows it's not, but a free or unregulated market. Put very, very basically, if a wedding photographer wants to charge $50 for their services or $50,000 for their services, it's completely up to them. There's no set price. When couples come to me and go, what's the average? There isn't one. There isn't an average. So for many engaged couples, this can be pretty confusing and subjective. So then the question is a bigger photography investment worth it for everyone? Or is your budget better spent on other aspects of your wedding? The short story is that only you can decide, because no two couples will ever have the exact same opinion on any wedding vendor's price, value, talent, worthiness, how well you get along, etc., etc. So while it's impossible to give you a precise scale to measure potential wedding photographers by, I can share what the average costs are for a basic package now and how to plan ahead to lock in the wedding photographer that you really want, even if your wedding is in a year or two. Did you know that most newlyweds spend up to 8 hours of their precious time working through changing their last name after they get married? This is where easy name change comes in. Their kits provide you with a sort of shopping list of businesses, companies and government departments where you simply pick which ones you need to notify. They then send you detailed instructions on how to go about the name change process, because every business is different, and this saves you hours of calling around, waiting on hold, sending emails, waiting for a response, and then remembering to follow up when you don't hear back from them. Easy name change kits also provide ready-to-send forms, letters and emails, so you just attach your marriage certificate to them and you're done. Starting at $39, the value and time you get back is a no-brainer. For more help on changing your name after you get married, there is an excellent blog post on the Unbridely website, and I'll put a link in the show notes for you. Plus, Unbridely podcast listeners get a $6 discount on their name change kits by using the code Unbridely6. That's UNBRIDELY 6, the number 6, and this is valid until the end of 2025. Get your easy name change kit so you can move on to the fun parts of being grown-ups together, like holidays, getting a dog, building a house, herb gardens. So now getting into these surveys that tell us how much wedding photographers are charging and where they are in the world. Globally, according to the Fearless Photographers 2025 survey, the cost of a basic wedding photography package, and here they're describing coverage of up to 10 hours and the delivery of between 600 to 1,000 edited images. So that's what they're saying by a basic photography package. It doesn't include all the other things, the bells and whistles. They're trying to set a standard as in a basic package so then we can compare apples with apples. Of course, it's impossible, but they've given it a damn good go. And so they've had photographers write in, tell this website, Fearless Photographers, where they live and how much they would charge for just that basic package. And the numbers came in like this. In the United States of America, the average wedding photographer will cost you $5,800. But if you're in the United Kingdom, it would cost you £2,100. In Canada, you're looking at 4,900 Canadian dollars, 2,200 euro in Italy, and 2,300 euro in France. Now, keep in mind, this Fearless Photographer survey is informal, as I said, and not peer-reviewed, and not every country was even included due to limited data. I'll put the link to the survey in the show notes so you can have a look for yourself. I just thought it was interesting to look at those numbers. But one of the countries that was not included was Australia, where I'm from, where I'm recording this right now. So for Australia, I had a look at recent data from Easy Weddings, which showed the average cost for a standard wedding photography package. And that price was 3,211 Australian dollars. Now, what they discovered was prices typically range from about 2,000 to over 5,000, depending on, here we go again, the location, the photographer's experience, and what's included, of course. East Coast cities of Australia, like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, often have higher prices. And while your country photographers may charge less, you might have travel fees that are added to the cost. Most standard packages in Australia, and it's quite similar to the Fearless Photographers standard, if you like, 8 to 10 hours of coverage, 600 to 1,000 high-resolution images. And as I mentioned earlier, the extras like a second shooter, an engagement session, an album, or drone footage, that will increase the price, of course. For my Australian wedding vendor colleagues, I think it's worth noting that while Australia is not the cheapest destination for wedding photography, it's certainly not the most expensive either. Couples who get married here, I believe, get a solid professional service at a price point that sits pretty comfortably in the middle of the global range, which means Australian wedding photographers, on average, offer great value, especially when you consider the high quality and experience that many Australian wedding photographers bring to your big day. So yay for us. So now let's talk about how you can use this information to help you budget and book in the best photographer for you and your needs. So number one, and first off, and in my opinion, it's the absolute key to all wedding planning, and that is to start your search early. as early as you can. When you know the date and you're able to pay a booking fee to lock in a certain vendor, then start. Because it's no secret that the best people in any field you want to talk about are in demand. And with wedding photographers, it's no different. The most talented and most experienced photographers often book key dates, so your Saturdays in peak season, between 12 and 18 months in advance. Booking early not only secures your preferred photographer, but sometimes can also lock in current prices before potential increases. Not all photographers work that way, but I know some that do. It's well worth asking. Number 2, next you need to decide what aspect of wedding photography is most important to you. So is it having the photographer there for the entire day? And what I mean by that is the coverage. How many hours coverage do you want and do you need? Or do you value extras like the engagement session or a beautiful wedding album? Knowing your priorities will help you choose a package that fits both your vision and your budget. Number 3, ask for detailed package breakdowns from the photographers that you're considering, because this will help you to see exactly what's included, and we want to avoid any surprises later on. Don't be afraid to ask questions about things like delivery timelines. How long is it going to take for them to be able to turn around to edit and deliver back to you your photos? What are their backup plans? What happens if something goes wrong? Ask them the questions that you really need the answers to, because it's not all about those prices. Number 4, just keep an open mind, consider getting married in the off-peak season or on a weekday. Because, as I mentioned, some photographers may offer lower rates for weddings outside of their busiest times, and this can save you a significant amount. And 5, finally, don't forget to budget for prints, albums, or additional services that you might want to add on after the wedding. Because sometimes they are a part of the package up front, and other times they are a decision that you can make and therefore pay for after your big day. But these extras can add up, so it's best to plan for them from the start. By following these 5 tips, you'll be able to make informed decisions and get the most value out of your wedding photography investment, no matter where in the world you are. I'd love to know your experience, whether it's as an engaged couple, a newly married couple, or a photographer yourself. How are you finding wedding photography costs changing this year, and what are you doing about it? You can DM me on Instagram, and I'll be right here with you again next week. Take it easy. That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.